All right, buckle up, because you've sent us some incredible source material, and we're ready for a deep dive.
We definitely are.
Today, we're plunging into, well, an ancient philosophical showdown. It's from a fascinating Pali text, the Cūḷasaccaka Sutta.
That's the shorter discourse to Saccaka.
Exactly. And think of it like this high-stakes intellectual battle, you know? Reputations are on the line.
And the core question is huge. What does it actually mean to be you?
Yeah. Our focus today is this guy, Saccaka Nigaṇṭha, a self-proclaimed master debater.
And his really audacious challenge to the Buddha himself.
And this isn't just about, like, winning an argument, is it?
Not at all. It's really a profound unraveling of fundamental truths. It shows how even, well, the most entrenched arrogance can be gently, but also powerfully dismantled.
So our mission here is to unpack all that, pull out the surprising facts, the deep insights, the bits that make you really think.
Because this ancient text, it feels incredibly relevant, even now.
Absolutely. You'll be right there with us, feeling the tension, the sort of aha moments, and this, well, this ultimate transformation that happens. Let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Okay, so our story opens in Visibly, big, bustling city back then. And we meet Saccaka Nigaṇṭha.
Right. The text introduces him as this renowned debater, an intellectual giant, basically, widely respected for his wisdom, his public speaking.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
There is. He's also known for, let's just say, extensive boasting.
Okay, what kind of boasting are we talking about here? Is it just normal confidence or?
Oh, it's way beyond normal confidence. Saccaka was supremely sure of himself. He publicly declared that he couldn't find anyone, no ascetic, no Brahmin, not even an enlightened one who wouldn't tremble, shake, or get this sweat when debating him.
Wow. Okay.
And he didn't stop there. He dramatically claimed that if he debated an inanimate pillar, even the pillar would shake.
An inanimate pillar. He actually said that.
He did. This isn't just ego talking, it's like a direct challenge to the whole intellectual scene. He's throwing down the gauntlet, big time.
That is quite the statement. Okay, so one morning, Saccaka's walking around Visibly, and he spots a monk gathering alms. This is Assaji, right?
That's right, the venerable Assaji. Saccaka goes up to him and asks, pretty directly, how does Gautama, that's the Buddha, how does he instruct his disciples? What's his common teaching?
And Assaji's reply.
It's remarkably concise. Classic Buddhist teaching cuts right to the core. Assaji says the Buddha teaches that the 5 aggregates...
Let's just quickly list those again.
Sure. Form, that's our physical body. Feeling sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Perception, recognition, naming things. Mental formations, our intentions, volitions, habits. And consciousness.
Okay, those 5.
Assaji says the Buddha teaches these are all impermanent, anicca, and crucially, anatta, not self.
Not self, that's the bigger deal.
Exactly. Not just doesn't belong to you, but isn't actually you. Assaji sums it up. All formations are not self. All phenomena are not self. Boom.
So Assaji just drops this massive foundational teaching on him.
Yeah.
How does Saccaka, Mr. Master Debater, react?
It's fascinating. He doesn't actually engage with the substance of it at all.
Really?
Nope. He just dismisses it. Says Assaji must have misheard or badly heard. It's like an intellectual brush-off.
So he doesn't even consider it.
Doesn't seem like it. He clearly doesn't like the sound of it. And then he says he really wants to meet Gautama himself, explicitly says he wants to debate him and refute these, quote, evil views.
Evil views.
Wow.
Wow. So he's already decided it's wrong without even grappling with it. He's spoiling for a fight.
The very public one, yes.
And he doesn't waste any time setting it up. He goes straight to the Lichavi Assembly Hall. There are, what, 500 Lichavis there?
About that, yeah. And the Lichavis were members of this powerful sort of republican state in ancient India. A big deal.
So he goes there and turns it into this huge public spectacle. Announces he's going to debate Gautama.
And he uses these incredibly vivid, almost violent similes to describe how he's going to dominate the Buddha.
Right, I remember reading these. They're pretty intense.
They really are. The text says he claims he'll drag Gautama by his hair like a strong man dragging a long-haired ram.
Oof.
Or like a strong butcher throwing a big piece of meat into a deep water hole and just yanking it out by its ear.
Okay.
Or like a strong distiller's assistant, you know, someone working with alcohol shaking, beating, and tearing apart a plate.
Just pure destruction.
Exactly. And maybe the most memorable one, like a 60-year-old elephant wading into a deep pond and playing the cloth washing game, basically just stirring everything up with ease, total dominance.
These aren't subtle metaphors. He's signaling complete humiliation.
Absolutely. It's pure aggression aimed at intellectually destroying his opponent in front of everyone.
What does that tell us about Saccaka's whole mindset? And maybe about public debates back then?
Well, it's definitely pure swagger on Saccaka's part. But also, intellectual reputation was huge in that culture. Public debates were often these big spectacles. Saccaka isn't just aiming to win points. He wants total public domination. Show everyone he's intellectually superior.
And the Lichavis, what do they make of all this?
They have mixed reactions, as you'd expect. Some are wondering, maybe the Buddha will be defeated. Others are probably thinking Saccaka's confidence is way over the top.
But they go along.
They do. Saccaka, followed by this crowd of 500 Lichavis, heads off to the Mahavana, the Great Wood, to find the Buddha. They're told he's resting under a tree.
So the stage is set. Saccaka finally gets his audience with the Buddha. He asks the exact same question he asked Assaji. How do you teach your disciples? What's the main instruction?
Yeah, same question.
And the Buddha gives the identical answer. The 5 aggregates are impermanent and not self. What's the brilliance there? Why not, adjust the message?
It's strategically very clever. First, it underlines that this is the core teaching. It's unwavering, universal, no secret handshake, no different version for the famous debater.
Okay.
Second, it directly confronts Saccaka's assumptions without getting sidetracked. And third, it forces Saccaka to react to this specific fundamental point, which sets up the whole rest of the debate.
Right, it makes Saccaka show his hand. So Saccaka tries a counter-argument. He uses this analogy, something about plants.
Yeah, plants and strong deeds relying on the earth. He says, just like plants grow from the earth and actions happen on the earth, a person relies on their 5 aggregates as self to generate merit or demerit, good or bad karma.
Okay, so what's the flaw there from the Buddhist viewpoint?
The flaw is the baked-in assumption of self as that stable ground, like the earth. He's right that actions have consequences, sure, but his analogy presumes a solid, unchanging self that owns and controls these aggregates.
But the Buddha's point is that the aggregates aren't stable or controllable like that.
Precisely. They're impermanent, constantly changing, and ultimately not controllable in the way a self would imply. So you can't use them as a reliable foundation for this idea of me. Saccaka then explicitly states his view. Form is myself, feeling is myself, perception is myself, mental formations are myself, consciousness is myself.
He just lays it all out there.
Who does? And then he tries to bolster it by adding, and this is the view of the great multitude. Like, everyone thinks this.
The appeal to popularity. But the Buddha doesn't bite, does he?
Not at all. He completely sidesteps the great multitude part. He's not interested in opinion polls.
He goes right for the personal claim.
Exactly. He asks Saccaka directly, you claim these are yourself. Okay, fine. Do you have control over them? Can you actually command, let my form be like this, let my form not be like that?
And that question about control, why is that the absolute linchpin here?
Because control is the acid test for self or mine. If something is truly me or truly mine, shouldn't I have ultimate authority over it?
Right. Like if it's my car, I decide where it goes.
Sort of. But even more fundamental, if it's my body, why can't I command it not to get sick or old? If these feelings are me, why can't I just decide to feel happy all the time? The Buddha's question hits the core inconsistency in claiming ownership or identity over things we fundamentally can't control.
So what happens? How does Saccaka answer?
He doesn't. He goes completely silent.
Just nothing.
Nothing. The Buddha asks him again. Silence. He asks a third time. Still silence.
Okay, this is getting tense.
Yeah.
What does the Buddha do now? Because Saccaka is just stonewalling.
This is where the sutta takes a really dramatic turn. It gets almost supernatural. The Buddha delivers this very stern warning. He says, basically, Saccaka, if you're asked a doctrinal question 3 times by a Tathagata, an epithet for the Buddha, and you don't answer, your head will split into 7 pieces right here and now.
Whoa. Seriously, that sounds extreme.
It does sound extreme, and it's not presented as just like a figure of speech. At that very moment, a powerful yaka, a kind of nature spirit, sometimes feels, called Vajrapat, appears in the air right above Saccaka.
Vajrapat. Isn't that thunderbolt in hand?
That's the one. And he's holding this blazing, fiery iron thunderbolt ready to smash Saccaka's head if he doesn't answer. And the text says both the Buddha and Saccaka can see him.
Okay, that would get my attention.
You think?
Yeah.
It's this incredibly potent symbol. It represents the almost cosmic consequence of refusing to engage with fundamental reality, of clinging to delusion when the truth is presented.
So Saccaka sees this terrifying spirit with a thunderbolt.
Yeah.
What does he do?
He completely panics. The text says he's frightened, agitated, his hair stands on end. He immediately seeks refuge in the Buddha, basically says, "Help me, Venerable Gautama," and finally agrees to answer.
And what does he admit?
He confesses. He admits he has no control over his body form, no control over his feelings, perceptions, mental formations, or consciousness. None of it.
It's a whole game right there, isn't it? A total reversal.
It's a monumental admission. His entire platform, his whole boast, just crumbled.
And does the Buddha just move on, or does he rub it in a bit?
He doesn't rub it in maliciously, but he definitely points out the direct contradiction. He says, "Saccaka, think about this. Your earlier statement doesn't cohere with your later statement, nor your later with your earlier."
He highlights the inconsistency.
Exactly. It's not just about winning the argument. It's about showing Saccaka the internal conflict, the stress, the suffering that comes from holding that contradictory view intellectually, seeing there's no control, but still instinctively grasping itself.
Makes sense.
Then the Buddha leads him gently, but very logically, through the implications. He asks about the aggregates. Are they permanent or impermanent?
And Saccaka has to say.
Impermanent, venerable sir.
Okay. And that which is impermanent, is it pleasant or painful?
Saccaka admits it is painful, venerable sir.
And then comes a clincher.
Right. The Buddha asks, now, this thing that is impermanent, painful, and subject to change, is it proper to regard that as, this is mine, this I am, this is myself?
And what can he possibly say at this point?
Exactly. He's cornered by his own experience and logic. He has to answer, no, venerable sir.
That sequence, it just dismantles his whole position, piece by piece.
It really does. It forces him to confront the sheer illogicality of clinging to these unstable, unsatisfactory phenomena as a solid self. The Buddha then delivers the final assessment of Saccaka's original view. By clinging like this, Saccaka is afflicted by suffering, bound to suffering, committed to suffering.
And Saccaka.
Saccaka, the great boaster, completely concurs, admits it's true.
Wow, so that's total intellectual defeat. But it feels like something else is happening too, maybe the start of a real shift.
Definitely. It's a turning point, but the public aspect isn't quite over. The Buddha uses this really powerful simile, the banana plant.
The banana plant. What's the analogy there?
He says, imagine someone needs heartwood strong, solid wood, and they cut down a big, straight banana plant. They start peeling away the layers.
And what do they find?
Nothing solid, just pith, no heartwood at all. The Buddha says similarly, Saccaka, when cross-examined on his own position, is found to be empty, void, defeated.
Ouch. That's a stark image. No substance to his claims.
None. And then the irony becomes physical, almost comical, if it weren't so profound. The Buddha points out that Saccaka, the guy who claimed others, would sweat when debating him.
He's sweating now, isn't he?
Profusely. The text says sweat is pouring off his forehead onto his cloak and dropping to the ground, while the Buddha himself, perfectly cool, not sweating at all.
That's such a vivid detail, a physical sign of the inner state.
Absolutely. It shows the complete reversal who has the real composure, the real inner peace based on understanding reality. The Buddha then, according to the text, reveals his radiant golden-colored body, which further emphasizes his attainment.
And Saccaka's reaction to all this, the sweating, the banana plant simile, the defeat.
Complete public humiliation. He just sits there silent, ashamed, shoulders drooping, head down, pondering, totally speechless, crushed.
Man. And then, just to pile on, one of the Lichavis, Dhammukha, pipes up with another analogy.
Yeah, Dhammukha the Lichavi offers the crab analogy. It's pretty brutal.
What does he say?
He says it's like when village boys catch a crab and break off all its claws and legs so it can't get back to its pond. He says the Buddha has done the same to Saccaka, completely broken all his points of argument and refutation, making him unable to ever approach the Buddha for debate again.
Wow. Talk about kicking a guy when he's down. How does Saccaka react to that public shaming?
It's interesting. He gets annoyed at Dhammukha. He calls him foul-mouthed and basically tells him to shut up, dismissing his words as prattle.
So he's not totally broken, he still has some fight left? Or is this something else?
I think it signals a shift. He's maybe annoyed because Dhammukha is still focused on the public spectacle, the winning and losing. But Saccaka himself seems to be moving past that. He's not trying to defend his arguments anymore. He's actually turning towards the Buddha with, well, real questions.
So this is the genuine pivot. He drops the debater persona.
Exactly. Instead of trying to score points, he asks these really sincere questions. He asks, basically, how does one become an obedient disciple? What makes them truly accomplished? And How does a monk become an arahant, someone who's totally liberated, destroyed all the defilements?
Those are huge questions. Deeply religious questions, not debate topics.
Right. He's moved from trying to refute the Buddha to wanting to understand the path the Buddha teaches.
And how does the Buddha answer after everything that's just happened? How does he explain being a true disciple or an arahant?
He brings it right back to that core teaching of not self, but maybe expands on it. He explains that a true disciple, one who is accomplishing the path, consistently sees all the aggregates, whether past, present, or future, internal or external, obvious or subtle, high or low, far or near all of them, are seen with right wisdom as, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself.
So it's that constant clear seeing.
Yes. And through that seeing, the disciple becomes freed without clinging. And the arahant, that's the culmination. The arahant is one who, by truly and fully seeing the aggregates this way, is completely liberated, utterly without clinging.
And this liberated monk
Is endowed with three excellences, the Buddha says. Excellence of vision, seeing things as they are. Excellence of practice, living according to that vision. And excellence of liberation, the resulting freedom. And such a person, the Buddha adds, naturally honors and reveres the teacher because they recognize the profound value of these teachings, the path to enlightenment, peace, freedom, unbinding.
That's quite a detailed and compassionate answer considering how the conversation started.
It really is. It shows the Buddha isn't interested in just defeating Saccaka, but in potentially guiding him if he's genuinely ready to listen.
And Saccaka seems ready now. His transformation culminates in this really profound apology, doesn't it?
It does. He expresses deep regret, fully admits his arrogance. He says he was foolish to think he could attack the Buddha with his words.
And he uses new analogies, right? But this time, they're completely reversed.
Exactly the opposite of his earlier boasts. He says it might be possible for someone to encounter a charging, frenzied elephant and survive, or approach a blazing fire and be safe, or even handle a deadly venomous snake. But it would not be safe to encounter the Blessed One, the Buddha.
Wow. A complete 180, from wanting to drag him like a ram to saying he's more dangerous than a viper.
It shows the depth of his shift in perspective. He recognizes the sheer power, not of aggression, but of the Buddha's wisdom and realization.
So after this apology, what happens?
He humbly invites the Buddha and the entire community of monks for a meal the next day, a traditional offering.
And the Buddha accepts.
He accepts with silence, which is a customary way for the Buddha to signal agreement to such an invitation.
And Saccaka follows through.
Oh, yes. He goes back to the Lichavis, but this time, instead of boasting, he rallies them to help provide alms food. He says, "The reckless Gautama is invited by me for tomorrow's meal together with the Sangha community of monks. Whatever you think is suitable for him, let that be prepared." They all contribute, and Saccaka prepares this fine meal in his own park.
And the yield happens.
Yes. The next day, the Buddha and the monks come, and Saccaka himself serves them attentively.
There's one final little exchange, isn't there, about generosity.
That's right. After the meal, Saccaka makes a traditional statement, expressing the wish that the merit, the positive outcome of this gift, should be for the happiness of the givers, meaning himself and the Lichavis who contributed.
Standard practice sounds like.
Pretty standard. But the Buddha adds this subtle, very interesting nuance. He gently shifts the focus.
How so?
He says, basically, a gift like this, Asaka, given to someone like you, where someone's still entangled in lust, hatred, and delusion, that kind of recipient benefits the givers in a certain way. But, he continues, a gift given to someone like himself, someone who is free from lust, hatred, and delusion.
Yes. What about that gift?
That gift brings immeasurable, fruitful results directly to Saccaka himself, the primary giver in this instance.
Ah, so the purity or liberation of the recipient actually enhances the benefit for the giver.
That seems to be the implication. It elevates the act of giving beyond just accumulating good karma. Giving to someone who is truly free creates a more profound connection and benefit for the one offering the gift. It points to the transformative power of interacting with genuine liberation.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways from this incredible deep dive into Saccaka Showdown?
Oh, we've definitely seen this powerful journey, haven't we? From just blatant arrogance.
I mean, debating a pillar.
Right. From that, all the way to profound humility and really genuine inquiry. And the absolute core insight, of course, is the Buddhist teaching on anatta, not self.
This radical idea that we don't truly control or even possess our body, our feelings, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness.
And that trying to control them or identifying with them fundamentally as me or mine, that's where the suffering comes in. Saccaka's own experience in the debate proved it to him.
Yeah, his transformation is pretty stunning, from this boastful guy ready to tear down his opponent.
To a sincere student asking about liberation and then becoming this humble host. It really highlights the power of that direct, logical questioning the Buddha used.
And the impact of just facing reality head on.
Exactly. It's a reminder that maybe real wisdom comes not from piling up more knowledge, but from letting go of what we think we know, especially about ourselves, and looking directly at how things are.
So thinking about this for you, listening, what does this all mean? Maybe consider this. In your own life, what are the aggregates?
Yeah, what are the aspects of your experience? Your body, your feelings, those recurring mental patterns, your sense of identity that maybe you mistakenly cling to, things you try to control as self.
And what might happen if you experimented with letting go of that tight grip? If you started seeing these things as, well, impermanent, maybe a little unreliable, and ultimately not the core of who you are.
Could that open up some space, some freedom, maybe a different kind of understanding?
What really stands out to you from Sicca's whole journey? From the boast, to the sweating, to the final offering.
We hope this deep dive gives you plenty to mull over, maybe something to explore a bit further on your own.